Hello everyone, welcome to yet another interesting session. I am Doye Akbe, I am an instructor, and our topic for today is Cabinet or Parliamentary System of Government. Remember in our last class we did talk about the presidential system of government. At the end of this lecture, students should be able to define Cabinet or Parliamentary System of Government, discuss the features or attributes of Cabinet System of Government, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of cabinet system of government, discuss the function of the cabinet in a parliamentary system, duties and responsibilities, functions and constitutional powers of the Prime Minister, and then know the differences between presidential and parliamentary system of government. Now, before we go into today's business, let us refresh our memory of what we did the last time. We did say the presidential system of government may be defined as one in which all executive powers are vested in one person called the president, and in which the executive arm of government is separated from the legislature but equal to it. The president is both the head of government and the head of state, and is referred to as executive president because he has executive power. Now let's talk about the parliamentary or cabinet system of government. Cabinet or parliamentary system of government may be defined as one in which the head of state is different from the head of government, and where there's no strict separation of powers between the executive and legislature. In this system, the real executive powers are vested in the Council of Ministers, known as Cabinet or Executive. It is headed by the Prime Minister, and the legislature serves as the source of authority for the executive. The Prime Minister and all cabinet ministers are chosen from the legislature and are still members of the legislature from where they derive their power. This is the reason why the cabinet system of government is also known as parliamentary system. The Prime Minister, who exercises real executive power, is the head of government, while the Queen or the King, as in Britain, or the president, as it is in some countries, is the head of state who performs ceremonial functions. Britain offers a very good example of a cabinet system of government. Nigeria practiced it in its first republic, that was in 1960. Now let us look at the features of the cabinet system of government. The head of state is different from the head of government. There is no strict separation of power. The Prime Minister is the head of government, while the Queen or King or the President is the head of state. The Prime Minister exercises real executive powers. The head of state performs ceremonial functions. The Prime Minister and all the cabinet ministers are chosen from the legislature, and they form what is called parliamentary executive. Let us quickly look at the advantages of a cabinet system. Reduction of dictatorial tendencies. One of the advantages of the cabinet system of government is that the fear that the executive arm of government can be dismissed by the legislature through a vote of no confidence reduces dictatorial propensities of the executive. It fosters cooperation. Cabinet system of government fosters cooperation between the executive and the legislative arm of government as a result of their fusion. The system is less expensive. The cabinet system is less expensive than the presidential system because in the cabinet system, members of the executive and the legislative arms are elected in one election, and also lesser people are involved since members of the executive are also the members of the legislature. It makes for good governance. This is as a result of the presence of official opposition party that criticizes any bad actions or policies of the ruling party. This is absent in a presidential system of government. Others are absence of friction. The Prime Minister can easily be controlled. There's collective responsibility. There's free flow of information and existence of friendly atmosphere. When I said the Prime Minister can easily be controlled, I meant it's as a result of the fact that unlike the president in a presidential system, the Prime Minister is responsible to the Parliament. Okay? So now let's look at the disadvantages of cabinet system. 1, does not facilitate decision making. The principles of collective responsibility that applies in the cabinet system slows down the process of decision making because If anything goes wrong, the entire cabinet members will be held responsible. It encourages mediocrity. Since the Prime Minister in the appointment of minister is limited only to members of his party, even if there are more qualified persons outside the party, the system therefore gives mediocres field day in the name of party. Okay, so is it difficult to apportion blame? The principle of collective responsibility that operates in a cabinet system makes it difficult to apportion blame to any member of the cabinet who defaults. Rather, the blame goes to all the members. And then there's fusion of powers. This does not encourage specialization in the arts of governance, thereby leading to inefficiency and ineffectiveness, which lower the quality of administration. Others are, it is less democratic, arbitrary dismissal. When I say arbitrary dismissal, I meant the uncontrollable power of the Prime Minister in dismissing any members he wishes to dismiss can lead to arbitrary dismissal of the ministers. And then uncertain tenure of office, and it encourages dictatorship. Okay? Now let's quickly look at the functions of the cabinet in a parliamentary system. The cabinet formulates major domestic and foreign policies to be submitted to the parliament for approval. It initiates government bills to the parliament. It takes decision on unforeseen major problems. The cabinet acts as a link between the executive and the parliament. The cabinet sees to the execution of laws passed by the parliament through various departments of the ministry. It renders collective advice to the sovereign through the minister. It controls and supervises the executive. Okay, so let's look at the duties and responsibilities, the functions and constitutional powers of the Prime Minister. 1. The Prime Minister is the head of government. He exercises real executive power. He is the head of the ruling party. The Prime Minister is also the parliamentary leader. He nominates the ministers for members of his party who are parliamentarians. He has the power to reshuffle his cabinet. The Prime Minister has the power to dismiss any minister in his cabinet. So let us look at the differences between presidential system of government and parliamentary system of government. Under presidential system of government, there's separation of power. Under parliamentary system, the two are fused. Okay? Under presidential system, president is both head of state and head of government. Under the parliamentary, head of government is different from the head of state. Under the presidential system, the president is being elected. Under the parliamentary, the prime minister is chosen by the legislators in parliament. Under the presidential system, president and his ministers are not members of the legislature. Under the parliamentary, prime minister and his ministers are members of the legislature. Under presidential, principle of collective responsibility does not apply. For parliamentary, principle of collective responsibility applies. And then for presidential, constitution is the supreme law. The constitution is supreme. While under parliamentary, the parliament is supreme. Let us quickly summarize all we've done. A parliamentary or a cabinet system of government, like we said, is a system of government having the real executive power vested in a cabinet composed of members of the legislature who are individually and collectively responsible to the legislature. The prime minister is the head of government, while the queen or king, as in Britain, or the president, as it is in other countries, is the head of state. Now I'll advise you to take these questions. Mention 7 features of a cabinet system of government, and then mention 5 differences between presidential and parliamentary system of government. Thank you for your audience, and I'll see you in the next class. Have a nice day.